I'm Filip Tomić, first year student of English Language and Literature and History, and I'm glad to present a PECHA KUCHA about John Ronald Reuel Tolkien. In this PECHA KUCHA, I'll be talking about who Tolkien was, what is he famous for, and about his long and prestigious life. He was born on 3rd of January 1892 in South Africa and was an English writer, poet, philologist, and academic, best known as the author of the high fantasy works The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. From 1925 till 1959, he served as a professor at Pembroke and Merton Colleges in Oxford. He was a close friend of C.S. Lewis. They were both members of the informal literary discussion group known as the Inklings. Tolkien was appointed a Commander of the Order of the British Empire by Queen Elizabeth II on 28th of March 1972. His son Christopher published a series of works based on his father's note, including The Silmarillion. Together with The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, these form a connected body of tales, poems, fictional stories, and invented languages about a fantasy world called Arda. In the 1920s, Tolkien undertook a translation of Beowulf, which he finished in 1926, but it wasn't published till 2014. 10 years after finishing his translation, Tolkien gave a highly acclaimed lecture on the work Beowulf and the Monsters and the Critics, which had a lasting influence on Beowulf research. When he was 3, he went to England with his mother and brother on what was intended to be a lengthy family visit. His father, however, died in South Africa before he could join them. This left the family without an income, so Tolkien's mother took him to live with her parents in Birmingham. Tolkien taught her 2 children at home, and he was a keen pupil. She taught him a great deal of botany and awakened in him the enjoyment of the look and feel of plants. Young Tolkien liked to draw landscapes and trees, but his favorite lessons were those concerning languages, and his mother taught him the rudiments of Latin very early. His mother was received into the Roman Catholic Church in 1900 despite vehement protests by her Baptist family. Before her death, Mabel had assigned the guardianship of her sons to her close friend, Father Francis Xavier Morgan of the Birmingham Oratory, who was assigned to bring them up as good Catholics. In his early teens, Tolkien had his first encounter with a constructed language, Animalic, an invention of his cousins. Their interest in Animalic soon died away, but Tolkien and others invented a new and more complex language called Newbush. The next constructed language he came to work with, Anafaran, was an invention of his own. While they were at King Edward's School, Tolkien and 3 friends, Rob Gilson, Geoffrey Bache-Smith, and Christopher Wiseman, formed a semi-secret society called the TCBS. The initials stood for Tea Club and Barrovian Society, alluding to their fondness for drinking tea in barrel stores near the school. Tolkien met Edith Mary Bratt, who was 3 years his senior, when he and his brother Hilary moved into the boarding house where she lived in Edgbaston. Edith Bratt and Ronald Tolkien were formally engaged in Birmingham in 1913 and married in Warwick on 22nd of March 1916. As have many others served in World War I. He arrived at Somme in early July 1916. On 27th of October he contracted French fever and was transported to England in November. A week, Tolkien spent the remainder of the war working on what he called the Book of Lost Tales. Tolkien had 4 children: John Francis, Michael Hilary, Christopher John, and Priscilla Mary Ann. He was very devoted to his children, and sent them illustrated letters from Father Christmas when they were young, and each year he added more characters. Edith died on 29th of November 1971. He had the name Luthien engraved on Edith's tombstone in Oxford. When Tolkien died 21 months later from a bleeding ulcer and a chest infection, he was buried in the same grave with Baron added to his name. He is an elf, and Baron is just a mortal man. Their complex tale of love for each other and the quest they are forced to follow, triumphing against overwhelming odds but ending in tragedy, appears in the Silmarillion. He based these two characters on his wife and himself. The Hobbit, or There and Back Again, is a children's fantasy novel published on 21st of September 1927 to wide critical acclaim. The story is told in the form of an episodic quest following home-loving Bilbo Baggins, the titular Hobbit, who aims to win a share of the treasure gathered by Smaug the Dragon. The Lord of the Rings is an epic high fantasy novel published in 3 volumes over the course of the year from July 1954 to October 1955. From homely beginnings in the Shire, the story ranges across Middle-earth, following the quest to destroy the ring mainly through the eyes of the hobbits. The Silmarillion is a collection of mythopoetic stories which forms an extensive though incomplete narrative of Ea, a fictional universe that includes the blessed realm of Valinor, the once great region of Beleriand, the sunken island of Númenor, and the continent of Middle-earth. Tolkien's great affections was language construction. The most developed of these are Quenya and Sindarin. Quenya in particular was designed as an Elven Latin, with ingredients from Finnish, Welsh, English and Greek. A notable addition came in late 1945 with Adonaic or Númenórean, a language of faintly Semitic flavor. While many other authors had published works of fantasy before Tolkien, the great success of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings led directly to a popular resurgence of the genre. This has caused Tolkien to be popularly identified as the father of modern fantasy literature. Thank you for your attention.